Good evening, patty cakes and patty mouths. How is everyone tonight? There's going to be a little bit of a change of plan because tonight, Nancy Galvani and her mother's case, or her daughter, Adelson Galvani, is going to be featured on Courtroom Insider, the East Idaho News. So I'm going to share that first so that we can watch it together. Hello, everybody. The tidbits of information you get on this channel, you ain't going to find nowhere else. Thanks, Jerry. It's really nice. Hi, YB. Hi, Patriotic. Hey, Tater. Hello, friends. Beach. Can't wait for this. In the court of public opinion, who does not think H&W are guilty? Oh, I think Harvey's guilty. I just don't think that's even a remote possibility of him being arrested. They just don't have the stomach for it. I don't know why, but they don't. Sorry about my glasses being kind of yellow, but that's the only ones I have right now. And my hair is a mess. It's kind of, it's really nice outside, but it's a little windy and I need a perm. So Stephanie, if you're watching, I need a perm. Woman's busy. I need somebody to roll it. I can put the chemicals in it. I just need someone to roll it. Hello, YB. Hey, John Smith. I got your last email. Thank you. Jean Louise, thank you. Just thinking that Georgia didn't give Jill 2 to 3 inch binders just to intimidate her without following through. Tab 34, tab 39. Go way to the back. Was fun, wasn't it? Fun to watch. Jill even, and after this, there's Veroscope too. Veroscope has a new one out. Catherine Magbanua's trial. He's on it. He's really producing. I got to hand it to him. I'm impressed. Patience is truly challenging. And do I look like I have it? Notebook 1, 2, 3, and 4 tabbed according to subject. I know. Dearest Patty, I hope this is okay, but Ruth Markel will be on Carl Steinbeck this Wednesday early evening. Yes, it is okay. And you can share other groups in this group. It's a pretty open group. I think the moderators or admin know that I don't really like when people's comments are removed. I mean, it's just me. I don't have to agree with you. I don't have to agree with your religion, your faith, your debate. If it gets out of hand, then it's going to be removed. But overall, I'm a libertarian and you can't hurt me. Other people have tried and failed, so I don't really care. I just don't. I don't care. So, yes, you can mention other people's groups. First of all, I like Carl. We have a nice relationship. And even if we didn't, people can still mention the group. I'm a small cog in the YouTube little, I'm not even like, I'm Pluto. Pluto doesn't exist, but it does exist. That's me. I'm like way out there. That's me. Hey, Beach. You hope you and hubby had a good day. Well, I've only seen him for a few minutes. I saw him this morning, did my day, which Mondays are hard. And I'm still waiting on people to do their job so I can do mine. And it's becoming a challenge for me. I'm talking about appraisals. And I took him dinner, went to church, came here, had a meeting. They're about to begin, so I'm going to turn it on.
Good evening, everybody. It is Monday, October 20th, 2025. I'm Nate Eaton. Thank you for being here for Courtroom Insider. I want to start tonight with a headline right out of newspapers.com. This is actually from the San Francisco Examiner. Monday, August 16th, 1982. Husband reports wife missing after body found in bay. Quoting, 3 days after Nancy Patricia Galvani's body was found floating in the bay near the San Mateo Bridge, her estranged husband, who has since been arrested for investigation of the slaying, filed a missing person report with San Francisco police. Foster City Police, who are in charge of the investigation into the murder of the 36-year-old woman, said her husband, Patrick, made the report to Northern Police Station on Ellis Street and Van Ness Avenue at 11 a.m. last Thursday. Her body was found August 9th, zipped into a sleeping bag. Bruises around her neck indicated she had been strangled. 6 days later, Patrick Galvani, described by friends as a quiet computer analyst, was arrested for investigation of killing his wife of 8 years. He was arrested after police searched his Pacific Heights Victorian Saturday. Though she was no longer living in the Green Street home, her yellow Buick was found in the garage there. Police called it an important piece of evidence. "We don't know what kind of mess this is," said a distraught Vincent Galvani, Patrick's father. The elder Galvani, speaking from his home in St. Paul, Minnesota, said his son was always mild-mannered and gentle. "This is just the reverse of what you would expect," he said. "Patrick wouldn't hurt a fly." The Galvanis were getting divorced, friends say. In July, Nancy had moved to the Civic Center Residency Hotel at 44 McAllister Street with their child, Adelson. Under an informal custody arrangement, Nancy kept Adelson during the week. On weekends, Patrick took the child back to the Green Street home. In keeping with the arrangement, Nancy told friends at the hotel on August 8th that she had to drop her child off and she would be right back. She drove off in her yellow 1973 Buick Apollo coupe. She never came back. Her naked body was discovered the following day by 2 high school teachers fishing off the San Mateo Bridge. She remained unidentified until Friday, when 2 women who operate the Civic Center Hotel identified the brown-haired, blue-eyed victim as Nancy Galvani, mother of a 5-year-old, wife of Patrick. Police obtained a search warrant to search the family's 2-story home at 1871 Green Street here. During the 6-hour search for evidence Saturday, police found the yellow Buick in the garage. Galvani was arrested and taken to the San Francisco City Prison. He was to be transferred today to the county jail in Redwood City and is scheduled for arraignment Wednesday in San Mateo County Municipal Court. According to San Mateo County coroner's reports, Nancy Galvani died of asphyxiation. She was battered on one side of the head and choked, possibly by hand, said Foster City Police spokesman Baron Mueller. A concrete block weighed down the sleeping bag that encased her body when it was pulled from the bay at the eastern end of the San Mateo Bridge. Snug around her waist was a white boating line, a handhold to help her killer pick up the body, police speculate. Her ankles were also bound, and there were rope burns and bruises around her neck, police said. Again, that was August 16th, 1982. Fast forward 3 days later, August 19th, 1982. Again, newspapers.com from the San Francisco Examiner. Murder victim once said husband assaulted her. That photo right there, that's Patrick Galvani, who was free on bail in the murder case, meaning in that 3-day period, he was arrested and was able to post, let's see what this story says, $20,000 bail, though his lawyers say he tends to plead innocent at the Mateo court hearing scheduled tomorrow. Let me just read through this. 2 months before her body was found floating in the bay, Nancy Galvani went to court accusing her husband of battery and obtaining an order restraining him from contacting, threatening, or harming her. Documents filed in court show that the 36-year-old woman was granted a temporary restraining order on June 16th against Patrick Galvani after she accused him of hitting her, holding a pillow over her face, and threatening to take away their only child, a girl who worked as a model. Patrick Galvani, 30, was charged with murdering his wife following the August 9th discovery of her nude body at the eastern edge of the San Mateo Bridge. The next day, again, according to this newspaper article in the same newspaper from newspapers.com, Galvani pleads innocent This was again in August. He was out on bail. And I'm just going to simplify it and kind of condense the next few months because this all happened in August. By December of that year, all charges were dropped. And Patrick Galvani never, ever, ever was charged again or served a day in jail for the murder of his wife. Now, to this day, he is presumed innocent. I'm not saying he did it. What I am saying is there's a lot of evidence that points to him. And tonight, that daughter, that 5-year-old daughter, Adelson, the model, is here. And she is going to speak about this case and where it's at now, over 40 years later. Her father is now in his 80s. She went on to live with him and was told repeatedly how horrible her mother was, that she was a whore, that she was a prostitute, that she was a bad woman. And Adelson believed him. And then he sent her away to England for school, to Oxford, I believe. She didn't want to go. He said, I promise I'll join you there later. He didn't. But when she went away to school as a teenager, that's when she started to maybe question some things. But it really wasn't until later when she had her first child that she thought, I think my dad may have killed my mom. Like, maybe he lied to me. Maybe he's responsible. And she contacted the police and recorded a phone call with the father. We're going to talk about that phone call. It is a fascinating story that is something. And I have to tell you that Adelson has gone on to become she teaches and researches at Yale. And she's an epidemiologist, has a PhD. She has published hundreds of scientific articles, won a Guggenheim Fellowship. She evaluates vaccination strategies and antiviral therapies for the Center of Disease Control. She's received international recognition and obtained tenure at the age of 33 at Yale. This is a smart, smart woman who has been fighting all of these years for justice on behalf of her mother. And she thinks that it might be coming, or at least hopes. And she has a plea, I guess I should say, for all of you watching tonight on how you can maybe help advance this case. So here is my interview with Adelson Galvani. Well, Adelson, I've really been looking forward to chatting with you. And I just want to start, back in 1982. You were 5 years old. The story I read in the LA Times, you remember having a picnic with your mom at having just seen Annie. And you're living in San Francisco. Your parents had just divorced, right? So you're living with mom and dad's living apart. To kind of set the scene for us.
Oh, well, they actually hadn't divorced. She had filed for divorce.
Oh, okay.
So when she was murdered, technically they were still married. As a result of violence, domestic violence, including an assault where my father was smothering my mother with a pillow, which I observed. My mother noted in her divorce filing. It's also in her diary. And my father even responded to saying that he put the pillow over my mother's face to deaden the noise for the neighbors until she conked out. That precipitated her filing for divorce. She took me and we moved to battered woman shelter. So that was, they were still negotiating the divorce when she was murdered.
Okay. So you're young. I mean, you're 5 at the time. Are you an only child?
Oops. Sorry, my
no worries.
earbud fell out.
Oh, no, not a problem. Are you the only child?
Yes.
Okay. So you're 5 years old. What do you remember as far as being told what happened to your mom, where your mom was, the fact that she had died?
I remember a lot surrounding her death. I think the trauma kind of encapsulated the memories. So a lot of the memories are very vivid. Towards the end of this, so this is in the end of July, they had come to just a temporary agreement that I would spend weekends with my father. So my mother would drop me off Friday evening and then pick me up Monday morning. The first weekend that I spent with him, and it's important, I think, to the context, like he also said he wanted custody of me. He'd made threats to her, like, I'll kill you before you get custody of Adelson. So the first weekend I spent with him, he registered me in a different school and told me not to tell my mom, like for first grade. So I'd done kindergarten to go to first grade. Then the second weekend was the weekend that she was murdered. That weekend, I heard my father on the phone with his uncle, who also has the same first name, Uncle Pat. And my father had me call him by his first name, Pat.
He had you call him Pat?
Yes.
Not Dad.
Right.
So
I mean, I called my.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say he's talking to Uncle Pat on the phone.
Yeah. So arranging for me to spend the night, the Sunday night, with Uncle Pat. And I overheard the conversation when my father hung up. You know, I mean, it even struck me as odd at the time. And it was certainly something I didn't want to do. Like, I had only seen that uncle once before, and this is my father's uncle. So he's like an elderly man. I'd never been alone with Uncle Pat or spent the night. So I told my father I didn't want to spend the night. He cajoled me, saying, okay, well, I don't want to hurt his feelings. I've already arranged it. So you just go for a few hours and you won't have to spend the night. So that was my memory, just to be clear. Then there's things that I, now know from that I didn't know at the time. But meanwhile, so this meanwhile part, I didn't know. He called my mother, and this is in her diary. She told multiple people. He told my mother she had to pick me up instead of Sunday morning. Sorry, did I say Sunday? Instead of Monday morning, she had to pick me up Sunday evening. She noted in her diary that this change of plans irritated her because she was co-hosting a taco party at the residence, and but she wrote that my father said he had to go out on business Sunday at midnight. The last time that anyone saw my mother, she was at the taco party, so multiple people saw her. They interacted with her, long enough that then they were able to describe her clothing to detectives. She said, I have to go pick up Adelson. She told multiple people, I have to go pick up Adelson. I'll be right back. Pick up Adelson from, her father's. And it was like a 7-minute drive from where we were living to my father's house. So she left just before 8. Neighbors saw her car in his driveway just after 8, like 8:20 or so. It's a very distinctive car, yellow Buick. And when I say neighbors, this was a lady that lived above, like knew my parents very well, lived in the duplex above, and actually, like, she rented from them. So anyway, it struck her because she knew my mother wasn't living there any longer, that she was surprised to see my mother's car in the driveway. Based on the autopsy, her skull was fractured. She was strangled. Her clothing was removed, and she was put in the sleeping bag. You mentioned about the picnic. So my mother kept a sleeping bag in the trunk of her car for picnics. And again, it's distinctive. It had like these egrets, these birds taking flight as a pattern. So the killer, who now I'm certain is my father, took the sleeping bag out of the trunk of her car, bound her with rope, and then She was attached a cinder block to her, dumped her body over the Hayward San Mateo Bridge. But she was found within 24 hours. Like fishermen found her the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And so, then the autopsy was it's very accurate, or more accurate autopsy when it's the person's been just recently killed. And the autopsy, so they didn't know who, I mean, she was unidentified at the time. So, but yeah, it's consistent with her being killed. More than consistent. I mean, I think basically stated that she'd been killed like the Sunday when, again, my mother was last seen. So all of that aligns. My father didn't end up picking me up like he said he would at Uncle Pat's house. He canceled. So I did have to spend the night. After all, again, that's the Sunday night when as it turned out, she was murdered. Then, my father, so then that's shifting back to like my memory. Like I remember my father canceling it. He said his car had broken down. I didn't speak to him, but Uncle Pat spoke to him, and Uncle Pat relayed to me that my father's car had broken down. And I remember being fresh because I did not want to spend the night there. And I said, "Oh, can you take a taxi?" But yeah, anyway, my father picked me up the next day.
What did he say?
My father said that she had probably run off because of the stress of the divorce. And I think that was the narrative that he was, had been planning. This is clearly premeditated, that he'd been planning because he thought that the cinder block would be sufficient. I think he also didn't realize how shallow the water was where he threw her body over. So he wasn't expecting her body to be found.
Especially that quick.
Yeah, exactly. But I didn't believe it at the time because I didn't think she would abandon me. She was found on the Monday. Then on Tuesday, the papers ran like a sketch of, she was a Jane Doe at that point. She was unidentified. My mother's friends, because my mother hadn't returned to the taco party. They were already concerned about her because they knew she was going to like her estranged husband's house. They knew she told them, about how he was violent and had threatened to kill her. And she viewed that smothering incident that I described, that assault, as an attempted murder. I was begging him to stop. Like if she felt that if I wasn't there, like he would have killed her at that time. So her friends knew that, and they were really concerned. They saw the sketch in the newspaper, and they were concerned it was her. They called my father to alert him to the sketch and asked, I guess confront/ask him that, Nancy said she was going there to pick up Adelson. He said, "Oh no, well, she didn't come." And they told him he needed to report her missing. Then I think a sketch appeared again in the newspaper, or the articles. There was a follow-up article. Then I guess would be. So it was Tuesday. Then Wednesday again, they called him again Wednesday. They insisted that he report her missing. They said that, like, if he didn't, that they would. And in fact, and then, so he said, "Okay, fine, I will." He walked into like a local precinct. He read from a legal pad. He didn't connect like his missing wife with the body. Like, I think he was still hoping that body was not identified as her. So even though her friends had called 2 days in a row alerting him to the sketch, and my father had a subscription to like the San Francisco Chronicle, and it was also in the Examiner.
So he would have seen it.
Yeah, it's inconceivable that he didn't, especially with her missing, that it didn't strike him as something that he should mention to the police. So meanwhile, then her friends, they contacted Foster City Police and said, we think we know the identity of the Jane Doe. They identified my mom. My father, actually, in retrospect, I also think this is, people have pointed out, like, first, it didn't strike me as like that damning, but he had his mother come out from Minnesota before, like, he knew my mother was dead. So like just a couple days. So it was like, she was never going to come to pick me up.
Show up. What did he say to the
up.
police station there, Adelson? You said he went in with a notepad. Did he just read a statement off of the notepad?
He apparently, read statements. I don't exactly know everything that he said, but I know that he didn't connect her with the sketch, and he implied that she had, just run off out of, that's the narrative I think that he gave at the precinct as well.
So her friends identify her.
Yeah.
He doesn't tell the police, he doesn't connect the sketch. At what point do you find out that my mom's dead, and who told you?
So Saturday, so she went missing Sunday. I was expecting her Monday morning. Saturday, the police came to our house. They asked to speak to my father. He refused to speak to them. They asked if they could look around. He denied that, but they had come with a search warrant. So then that's when I was told that my mother had been found strangled. And they searched my father's house. They found her, her friends who reported her missing had described her clothing. They found my mother's clothing, her glasses, and her car was at my father's house. So, her car being there, well, just everything, that's very incriminating.
Right. Did they interview your dad?
They wanted to, but he refused to speak to them.
Did he get like an attorney and,
Yes.
lawyer up? He did.
Yeah, he did. And actually they did arrest him then that day, based on what they found in his home. Like, from my perspective, I didn't realize, he's like out on bail, because it hadn't really been explained to me that I did see him in handcuffs. And I asked my grandmother why he was in handcuffs, and she said, "Oh, the police deal with a lot of dangerous people, so that's just like their protocol."
Well, plus you're 5 or 6, you're not probably going to know what bail is, bond. That's kind of foreign to a kid.
Yeah. So like now I understand he was out. He was then away a couple of days. Like I remember that, like him being away. Then he came home.
So did you ever hear what his defense was, or his alibi, why he said he wasn't the guy they were looking for?
Well, he said I was his alibi, or at least he didn't talk to the police. So his lawyers, he was talking to his lawyers. He hired like very high powered representation, John Kecker.
Adelson, can we pause for a minute? Tell me what
sure.
your dad did. I mean, we're still recording, but it's kind of set the stage, because it sounds like he had money, and because you guys were living in an affluent neighborhood, right? I mean, so was he influential in the community? Was he known for his money? And what about your mom's social status? Because a lot of times, unfortunately, those type of things play into cases like this.
Yeah, I think it did. Well, when my parents met, my mother was a social worker, and my father was working for like investment consulting. And actually at the time, my father had quit his job, but his family had the money to, post his bond and hire. They spent a lot of money on his defense. Also, his sister who was a lawyer, she came out from New York City.
To assist.
Yeah.
So he did have the money to get the good attorneys, and they said you were his alibi. What? That he was with you at the time that his wife would have been killed?
Yes. So they didn't realize that he had sent me to Pat's house. They did note apparently in the interview with me that I referred to my father as Pat. So I think there was confusion because they're both Pat, both Patrick, Pat. They went by Pat. And his lawyers pushed that. They said that, a violent murder like this couldn't have occurred in that home without, little girl hearing it. So I was his alibi. In fact, that's why my YouTube channel is called My Father's Alibi. I was his false alibi, which the police now know, but at the time they didn't know. The police still felt there was plenty to arrest him. And well, if we're jumping ahead to when the charges were dropped, like the chief of police even from Foster City made a statement. They really disagreed with that. They didn't understand why the evidence, like he wasn't going to be judged by a jury of his peers. That's an December 1982 article. The DA said, we're not saying the day at the time, because it's a new generation now. We're not saying for a minute that he didn't do it. We're just saying that we think there's less than 50% chance that we would win the case, which is our criteria for going forward. So it wasn't much of like a vindication, like looking back at those quotes. And so he was not prosecuted. So there's no double jet. He was charged, but then the charges were dropped. They also disparaged my mother.
The defense team did?
Yes. Like for instance, like she, in the autopsy notice, she had like freshly manicured nails painted red. And they were saying like that only a promiscuous woman would have nails like that. My father, he ended up like telling me that it was probably a serial killer that killed prostitutes, because my mother was, she was acting like a whore. They said, she was mentally ill, which, she didn't kill herself. So it's, she was a social worker. She was like, she had a master's degree in social work. She wasn't working at the time, after I was born. Oh, I saw a quote from my father's lawyers, like saying, that, Adelson needs one of her parents, which I see that. I find that disturbing but I see that even now. Like, for instance, there's this, I don't know if you're familiar with this case in Florida, Adelson case, where a family conspired to, put out a hit on the ex-husband. At this point, there were 4 trials. The first one pled, but anyways, 5 people are in jail now for that crime. It's pretty clear the mother of the 2 little boys was also involved. And you hear, not with everyone, but I occasionally hear the narrative that, they hope that Wendy's the mom's name, is not charged because like that will be traumatic for the boys. And that they need a parent, but they don't need a parent. This is, and having experienced myself, you don't need a parent as narcissistic and violent, and clearly not putting the child's interests as paramount. Right. That's not the idea that that's the parent that a child needs. I just find sick.
Yeah.
So, but that is something they said, and I guess some people they still even believe that kind of thing.
What month was your mom killed in?
August.
So August. So then they dropped
8th of August.
August 8th. They dropped the charges in December. of the same year, was your dad ever charged again in association with the case?
No.
And he walks free, completely free. And how long do you continue to live with him?
Lived with him my entire childhood.
And did you
I did.
talk about your mom? Was the mom brought up?
If ever I would bring her up, he would disparage her, calling her a whore or crazy. And, even like that smothering assault that I had observed, that even became normalized. Yeah, like I accepted as though it was reasonable that, oh yeah, you would press a pillow over your wife's face to quiet her down. It wasn't until I had my own baby that it struck me that is not okay. And it makes I was persuaded that like she shouldn't have even filed divorce for divorce against him. Like that was only because she was crazy that she did that.
So you're 100% on his side, obviously, as I think most children would be. When did you realize, wait a second, like take a pause and say, maybe my dad did this? I mean, were you in college? When did that come about?
Well, this is something that my husband can speak to. And I think it is kind of hard for people to understand. So I think just over the many years, I was in a state of like cognitive dissonance where I still remembered all the things I described to you. I knew like her car was found at his house. And there were things like that that were unsettling. I remembered how he canceled picking me up from, I had spent the night with Uncle Pat's house. But at the same time, I clung to my father. I was an only child. There was that uncle who, but all the family were like in Minnesota or on the East Coast. So my father was really all I had. And having lost my mother so suddenly as well, I was concerned. I was anxious basically all the time that he would suddenly die as well. So I was very attached to him. He has a violent temper. He started taking that out on me, but that was also something I compartmentalized. And I thought like that I did really love him. But still these facts and these memories were unsettling to me. And for instance, like when I met my husband when I was 25, like, I would say to him things like, isn't it weird that, my mother's car was at my father's house? And Jeff, I didn't realize at the time, but he knew straight away just from the facts I had described, oh, this woman's father killed her mother. But he didn't come out and say that to me, but he would reflect like, oh yeah, that is weird. That's weird. I think the denial really lifted when I became a mother myself.
Yeah. Wow. That I can imagine that when you have your own kids and you start to put it together. Were you still talking with your dad by the time you got married and had your first child?
Yes.
You were. So you had a relationship.
Yes, at that point, yes. I mean, because the denial, like at that point, the denial, like I maybe have, some moments where I thought he was guilty or like but then I thought, I also thought like my father, it's still, even though he was violent with me, even though I observed violence, even though like I remembered all these unsettling, incriminating things, I had this like cognitive dissonance with, oh, but he's my father. My father couldn't do that. I spent years living with him, being raised by him.
At that point, you kind of enter this new phase, this new line of thinking. Do you like confront him? Do you say, I need to ask him some questions? How do you handle it, at that point?
I did confront him. And he said it wasn't my fault. Like, I accused him of killing her when Sarah was a little baby. He said it wasn't my fault. I then started contacting I was trying to gather then as much evidence as I could.
And was this around like 20 years ago?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, yeah, a little bit less. Sarah's 18 now.
18.
So,
Okay, so around
yeah.
18 years ago. So for the first 20 years of your life, 25 years, you're with him, you kind of agree with what he said, although there are moments where you kind of question it. And when you have your first child, daughter, Sarah, you're like, okay, Dad, did you kill her? And he says, it wasn't my fault.
Yes.
And so what do you do with that information? That's when you start to reach out to the authorities?
Yes.
And what was the response from them?
It was a new generation, and now it's even a new generation beyond that. The police looked at the file again and thought, oh my gosh, I can't believe this case hasn't been prosecuted. There's so much evidence here. And I clarified for them about I wasn't my father's alibi. They asked me to do a police recorded phone call because my father, said for me, it wasn't my fault. I don't think is really the natural, it's consistent with being innocent. He's not saying I am guilty, but I still don't think it's for what an innocent person is likely to say. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I went out to Foster City to do this police recorded phone call. In the phone call, he admits that he sent me to Uncle Pat's that night. He canceled picking me up. I confronted him also. He had been inconsistent over the years about why he hadn't picked me up. So he had said he usually said the car had broken down. And that police recorded phone call, he said he'd had a couple beers. He was not an alcoholic. So it was, and he was, I also just think if he was supposed to pick me up and he promised to pick me up, he shouldn't, if he was then gonna drink and then decide, oh no, I can't drive. But so that's what he said. And I said, oh, well, that's, you've given these two different reasons. And he said, oh no, both are true. That the car broke down and he had beers. 2 beers, I think he said. So in that phone call, he also said that, and this was something he said many times, that my mother's murder was the best thing that ever could have happened to me, that if she had lived, I would be a druggie. Those were his words. And he's basically giving justifications for her murder. He said, if I did it for you. He also said in the police recorded phone call that he was planning it. And I said, when were you gonna, it was the first time he had told me I was planning to kill her. And I said, when were you gonna kill her? He said, oh, he was planning to kill her the next day, but someone beat him to it.
What?
Yeah.
And this is all on tape.
Yeah. And, because it was recorded by the police, it can be played in court. I mean, right. The prosecutors have confirmed that now, that whole tape. And it's not a short phone call. He's just saying one weird thing after another. So
this was 18 years ago. What's happened in the past 18 years? I mean, why is he still a free man?
I don't really understand why they did this. The police at that time, again, wanted the district attorney to press charges, and I don't really understand why they didn't. I talked about it on YouTube, and people said oh my gosh, there's so much evidence here, you should contact them. And people started writing emails to Foster City and to the DA's office, which prompted me to contact Foster City again. It hadn't been on their radar. They looked at it and had the same response that the previous generation had, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this hasn't been prosecuted. It's been assigned a homicide prosecutor. I know that I think the DA, I have met with Mr. Wagstaff, Stephen Wagstaff. He may have some reservations about filing the charges, but his colleagues feel that the case is extremely strong and that charges need to be brought immediately. And that's how the police department feels. The lead detective, the original detectives are still alive. They say they're haunted by the case and that it didn't get prosecuted. Basically in response to people emailing the DA's office, they did devote resources over the last year or so to reinvestigating the case. They found the vast majority of the witnesses, like the people that last saw my mother, who described the clothing.
Well, the good thing is, like Adelson and I were talking before we were recording, it's nice that the police and the DA's office, for the most part, everybody wants to pursue this, that there have been resources put into this case for the past years, because so many times you're fighting, and it's not going anywhere. Sounds like this just needs to get pushed over the finish line. And you're saying that if people can reach out to the DA and encourage them, that might help. Do you have a way to contact, let's see, what's his, is it Robert? Is that his first name? Mr. Wagstaff?
Oh, Wagstaff.
Yeah.
Wagstaff is his last name. Yeah, S is his, so S Wagstaff. Yes.
S Wagstaff at smcgov.org.
And there's no period. It's in his email. It's S, and then Wagstaff was spelled WAGSTAFFE at smcgov.org.
Adelson, have you had any contact with your dad over the past few years?
That police recorded phone call was the last time I spoke to him.
Do you have any interest in talking to him if he wanted to talk with you?
I haven't. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I guess perhaps, but I don't expect to get anything other than gaslighting and anger. He's not really capable of feeling remorse, hence all those justifications in the phone call for why he did it.
Well, I have to express my admiration for what you have made out of your life, given such a horrible childhood, having lost your mom and then being raised by a violent man who manipulated everybody, so it seems. And here you've gone on to be a well-known epidemiologist who has done great work in fighting infectious diseases. How do you think this has affected you, though, overall, your life, leading to where you are today?
It's still a daily pain, and, void. Even my children say that even though they never had the opportunity to meet my mother, that they feel her absence at family events, graduations, that sort of thing. My eldest wrote what I think is a very powerful email to the DA about that. It has affected me. I think maybe I'm a more anxious person in general. It's kind of hard to know but yeah, I think I feel a lot of anxiety, especially with the safety of the people I love. In terms of, thank you for mentioning my career. I think that was a coping mechanism. Combination of my father, to him, me doing well in school was really important. I think he felt like reflected on him. And so to make him proud, I focused on studying. And also, yeah, I think I just focused so much on studying in school to almost try to give my mind not much space to think about my mother, but still I think about her every day.
Yeah. What do you want the world to know about her?
She was a compassionate, loving person who didn't deserve, I was used as bait to lure her. My father used me as bait, and then he used me as his false alibi. And she thought she was picking me up, and that he used me as bait in that way.
Yeah. Well, Allison, I hope that next time we speak, there's been an arrest in that case, your case. That'd be something if that was the case.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anything you want to add?
No, just gratitude to the YouTube community for writing to Mr. Wagstaff. It has already been instrumental in the allocation of resources, and I'm so grateful for your coverage. Hopefully it will spur other people to write as well. So yeah, thank you. Thank you, Neat.
Allison, before you go, where can people find your YouTube channel?
Oh, it's my father's alibi. It's the handle for my YouTube
My
channel.
Father's Alibi. And I imagine there you go more in depth into the case and what's happened over the years.
Yes.
Yeah. I can't imagine going my whole life wondering what happened to mom and then realizing, oh, what happened to her is that dad killed her. And now I need to fight to get justice for her and make sure he is locked up. He's now in his 80s, living in San Francisco. And as she mentioned there, she hasn't talked to him since she called him and confronted him on that phone call. But if you are interested in contacting the prosecutor, again, that email address it's Mr. Wagstaff, S. Wagstaff, that's SWAGSTAFFE at smc, as in cow, gov.org. You can contact the prosecutor directly there for the county. Big thanks to Adelson for speaking out, and we'll continue to follow this one for sure. And I want to thank newspapers.com. They helped make tonight possible. It's fascinating. All of the stories in one place about this case from the early 1980s, from the San Francisco Examiner. I was able to find the pictures of Patrick. I was able to find the news stories from when this case originally broke. It's just a treasure trove of information. And we thank newspapers.com for sponsoring Courtroom Insider. If you haven't checked them out, you should go do it. Take advantage of that 7-day free trial and learn more about this case. And also, there's so many others out there that you can do research on. Here's where you can find me. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on X. And of course, YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't. We love your subscription. And we appreciate all of you who have subscribed and who support us and who comments. And we also want to thank Miss Peggy, our comment moderator, who's with us every night, gathering the comments and searching for good questions that she can.
Thank you very much. I think it's important to share Allison's story, or I wouldn't have done it. So simple as. One of the reasons I admire her, Adelson Galvani, so much is that, unlike many children of murderers, she detached from her father. Even though she said at the end she'd like to hear from him, but she knows what the outcome would be. She knows that he's not going to show remorse or admit any guilt. It's a lot. It's hard to detach from your parents. I didn't. I didn't detach from mine. I moved to Florida. So I can understand that, but Hard. Very, very hard. So well done, Adelson. I know it's not easy for you to be on camera. You like not to be on camera, but you're a beautiful girl. I mean, woman. You're a girl to me. And very smart. Very, very, very smart woman. So I hope this helps get the word out. See what happens. In the meantime, it's got to put pressure on Pat. Pat. It's a shame that's your name. Very much a shame. But yeah, S. Wagstaff, Stephen Wagstaff. Email him if you have time and you don't mind it. So we're going to talk today about, I'm going to sneeze just a second. And I was accurate. I sneezed. Veroscope has another one out.
Welcome to the Veroscope.
This is an hour long. But what I wanted to talk about before we do that is what's the difference between circumstantial evidence and direct evidence? So and because no one believes anything I say, I'm going to give it to you in writing. This is from Rhode Island Court of Appeals. How better to do this, right? I don't have to read the whole thing, but evidence may be direct or circumstantial. Direct evidence is direct proof of a fact, such as testimony of an eyewitness or a phone call. Circumstantial evidence is proofs of one or more facts from which you could find another fact. You should consider both kinds of evidence. As a general rule, the law makes no distinction between the weight to begin to either direct or circumstantial evidence. It is for you to decide how much weight you give. So these are jury instructions. Direct evidence can prove a material fact by itself, like a phone call or a text, "I'm outside." It does not require any other evidence. Donna, it just doesn't. It doesn't require any other evidence. "I'm outside your house" is plenty of evidence to say you don't need to have a phone that's traceable, whatever. You sent that text, you state yourself. It does not require you to draw any inferences. A witness's testimony is direct evidence when the witness testifies to what he saw, heard, or felt. In other words, when a witness testifies about what is known from his own personal knowledge by virtue of his own sentence, what he sees, touches, or hears, that is direct evidence. Lewis. Wendi is the blog. I saw her and the two boys. She was looking at us. That's direct evidence. That's not in my mind. I'm just a citizen. That's not circumstantial. He said he saw her. He said he heard Katie Magbanua tell Sigfredo, "I know." The only question is whether you believe the witness's testimony. A document or physical object may also be direct evidence when it can prove a material fact by itself without any other evidence or inference. Drina testifying, showing the book, then the idiots, Zelford, showing an hour-long video of Donna writing with Drina. Who are you to believe? I understand the jury's point of view that they discounted it because she was in jail. And then you have Drina by accident during the Pat Sanford witness testimony when Pat Sanford, and there was that mistaken call, Drina talking to Harvey. And that's why he started to get like a smirk on his face. Pat Sanford did, who's the FBI agent who arrested Donna. So a list of circumstantial versus direct, I still think the direct far outweighs the circumstantial when it comes to Jill. Circumstantial evidence is the opposite of direct. It cannot prove a material fact by itself. Rather, it is evidence that tends to prove a material fact when considered together with other evidence and by drawing inferences. There's a simple example of circumstantial evidence that I used at the beginning of this trial that you may recall. Assume that when you got up this morning, it was a nice sunny day. But when you looked around, you noticed the streets and sidewalks were wet. You had no direct evidence that it rained during the night, but on the combination of facts that I've asked you to assume, it would be reasonable and logical for you to infer that it rained during the night. Not all circumstantial evidence presents such a clear, compelling inference. The strength of the inferences arise from the circumstantial evidence is for you to determine. So we're going back and forth, as my husband said, back and forth, Patty. You always go back and forth. Yes, I do, Chris, because it's a debate. You just didn't know you were in the debate. He's my husband, by the way. You are a part of the debate, Chris. You just weren't aware of it. So Lewis sitting there on the stand multiple times saying he saw Wendi. Wendi is the blog. How'd you get a picture? How'd you know? How did you know? I don't think that's, I think that's, if a witness saying something is eyewitness is direct evidence, then he has direct evidence that he saw Wendi on Trescott walking the two boys the day before. If she's literally has a text message to Charlie saying, I'm outside your house, that's pretty much direct freaking evidence. That money didn't grow there. It didn't. If Wendi is asking Jeff, when are you leaving town? After breaking up with him again, that's evidence. That is direct evidence. Why would you ask that? Now, the circumstantial might be like, well, now we're inferring because she asked him, she's setting Jeff up. But it's a direct witness testimony saying, she asked me that. So if you were going to frame someone and there was, they pressed charges, you tried to frame Jeff on that would be direct evidence. But all in all, it becomes circumstantial because now we have to infer, why'd she ask that? Debbie Martin, comment of the night last night, and I'm not kidding, sent me a text. She couldn't be on today. She said, let me get to it. Charlie on the stand was asked when he found out Dan was murdered. He said the next morning. That always bugged me because we know Donna called him when Wendi said so. But he didn't know Dan was dead until the next morning because Dan wasn't dead until the next morning. So I figured the call to Charlie Friday was to say, don't pay Katie yet. He's not dead. Now, that is circumstantial in that we're inferring Wendi knew that Charlie had to pay Catherine. But I don't think it's much of a leap to get there. When she clearly said, I talked to him at 10 a.m., obviously before all of this happened. Don't tell anyone else. People are calling me. People weren't calling you. One person called you. And that was your realtor. There was a shooting on Trescott. It was in the house, she said. It wasn't in the house. So she didn't even know that yet. She just knew he was shot. Donna tells Robert, are you DeMarco? Yep. In the house. It didn't happen in the house. It happened in the garage. Donna thought it happened at the house. How would she have known that? She didn't tell her that. She told her it happened on Trescott at the house, not in the house, not in the garage. Fascinating. Just absolutely incredible. There's so much direct evidence for Wendi. The moving, the removing, the asking Jeff. I know it didn't make it to the stand because of discovery, but asking Jeffrey Lacoste about the memory of a child and how long do memories last. Ergo, Adelson Galvani, who's 5, who police did not believe she remembered everything until she described the blanket, the picnic blanket that was in the back of her mother's Buick. And then they were like, oh, yeah, you do remember. Mm-hmm. She's, 40. It was traumatic. I think it can go either way. You either remember or you don't. But what is direct evidence when it comes to Wendi? What do you guys think? Do you have any more? I mean, circumstantial evidence is you barely spoke to the grandparents at the funeral. You didn't go to Toronto to see the man buried. You've never allowed your kids to go to Toronto to see where their father is buried. I've shared with you that my husband's father was shot. He was shot in Brazil hunting wild boar. He was a big game hunter. He was a dentist in Connecticut. Wealthy guy at the time. His estate was eaten up all by attorneys, as it happened in the 60s. And he was shot. And my husband, there's various stories, but of course I love Ancestry and get on there. And I found the consulate's information where his body was transferred out of Brazil and what had happened. And I shared it with them. And I don't know if I helped the situation or hurt it. Doesn't matter. The truth is the truth. And I wanted to know where the man was buried because my husband had never been. Obviously, it was extremely traumatic. They were living there at the time. My husband went to the funeral. He was 10 and has absolutely no memory of it. None. He had no idea where his father was buried. None. So hopefully before my husband passes out of this world, I'll be able to take him up to Connecticut and he can see it because I think he needs to. Here one day, gone the next. He was shot in the stomach. So it was shot by his best friend, guy who wasn't used to what the story says, big game hunting. And why he took him, we don't know. Why he was out in the Brazilian, we don't know. But that's what happened. And it was extremely traumatic. And I think until I know there's this anxiety about me carrying a weapon or just weapons in general, the whole thing. I think to rectify when you're so young that your father has passed, you have to go. You have to see it. They didn't get to go to a funeral. They didn't get to do anything. She wouldn't permit it. They're stunted. They've got to be stunted. You can't undo that damage. You can't undo it. I see my poor husband go through it. He's 67. So there's a lifetime of pain that are going to come to those boys, as you can see Adelson. She's distanced herself. I mean, just a natural observing. She's distanced herself to a point because she has to talk about it all the time. But in her heart, she said, I think of my mother every day. And she obviously tried to include her mother into her children's lives. Because they notice, like everyone else has grandmothers, we don't. Why don't we? Because she was strangled and thrown into the bay. That's why. But she talks to her. I mean, that's a gift, whether she's aware of it or not. My husband didn't have that. They couldn't talk about it. It was the 60s, right? You can talk about these things. I talk about it with him because I force the conversation. Because you got to come to grips with stuff. You can't just let it be buried. That's what concerns me about those boys and any other victim of these. Even Ainsley Williams, it worries me to death some days. Like, girl, you just don't even realize what you're defending. And I wouldn't have convicted her, but I still know she's diabolical. Probably if the conspiracy, the murder thing was overturned. But Donna is not the same person. Harvey lives in a world where he thinks what he says goes. And anybody who thought otherwise learned the new Harvey at the statement for the sentencing. I mean, he's just a cock. I mean, he just is. People are like, oh, Batty, what's he going to do? Harvey has nothing to lose. If he wants to hurt any of us YouTubers, Surviving Survivors, Steinbeck, any of us, he could. He could. And you can walk around being worried about what Harvey fucking Adelson says, or you can just go live your life. I mean, that's got to piss him off. That we're all living our lives with happy hair and bitches in freaking Lowell. For weeks, I asked somebody today, how long will she be there? Weeks and weeks and weeks. Cheers, Donna. And she won't be able to have visitors. She'll be broken down. All the medical, all the psychiatric, all the emotional testing, all of it. Every ounce of her body will be tested before they place her into a prison. Takes weeks. So that's but I think there's enough direct evidence to Wendi. People are sending me text messages. It's all day, which I love that you send them, but saying that the state doesn't have the gumption to arrest Wendi. Honestly, I think they're not going to. I think I'm going to compare it again. It's horrible to compare a murder to a football murder, but Mike Norvell should have been fired the minute he got off that plane. And he's our coach at FSU. He has a product to sell and he's not selling it. So you should be fired. Sorry. Sue me. Wendi should be arrested. The only one I don't think that has the gumption to do it, it's not the whole state. It's Jack Campbell. And I live here and I see him out and about. Now, am I going to approach the man again that's not in a party at a chili cook-off, which I didn't get to go to, by the way, because none of you wanted to go, that I'm going to say this something? That's never happening. I'm never approaching the man at a party situation and asking him why I'm not a reporter. It's just not happening. Never. So, skip asking me that because I'm not doing it. But, Georgia clearly has the gumption. Someone brought up to me today, Sarah Catherine Dugan, her cohort, is up for a final selection of a judgeship. And it has to be appointed by DeSantis. It's just like when Everett was appointed, it was appointed by the governor. It takes about 2 months. So the final finalists were selected September 4th. So 2 months from then. So it wouldn't be, okay, so that's November 4th. And I think that's a fair assumption that nothing is going to happen with Wendi until they find out whether Sarah Catherine gets a judge bench seat or not. I just think. But all the text messages, Wendy's going to be free. Wendy's going to be free. Wendi, you don't know. I don't know. None of us know. But I do know if she's going to be free, they're not closing the book. They're not going to do what they did with Pat Galvani. The book will not be closed. They won't need to reopen it because it'll always be open. Allie Gilmore, she's a girl who went missing a long time ago. They haven't closed that one. She's been missing forever. She was pregnant. It was outside of the Wilson Green neighborhood. She was on her way to work. She had a boyfriend. She had a baby daddy. It was one of those things. She didn't deserve to die, and she's clearly dead. And every time there's bones that show up in this town, whether it's Indian bones or, unmarked slave graves, whatever it is, they're like, is it Allie Gilmore? Everyone asks, whatever bone shows up, is it Allie Gilmore? Because she's been missing forever. They haven't stopped. They just can't do any more. Because I believe where they think she is private property. And they've tried so many times to get in there, and you can only get so many search warrants. Leisure Linda, how are you? I've called and emailed district attorney's office and also Georgia's office. One time I called after Charlie. Georgia answer. I remember congratulating her. Good for you. That's nice. I bet she'd appreciate it. David Ehrenberg says she will be arrested. My friend who works in the courthouse said she would just give it time. Just give it time, Patty. So maybe it is this Sarah Catherine. Whatever it is, it's secret. They're not telling us. They're just not telling us. Jose Baez will be free next year. Yeah, I don't know if she can afford Lauro for much long. I don't know. There is no way Wendi Adelson is going to be a hung jury. There's no way. It will only be a conviction. Only. If all of those 12 jurors, 14, were polled and they're like, why wasn't Wendi arrested? And it was like 3 hours and 10 minutes on the dot, something like that. Why would you think it'd be a hung jury? I'm not saying go for murder one. I'm just saying go for conspiracy, like Denise Williams. Just go for the conspiracy then. If you don't think you can get one, you'll get 2 and 3. You'll definitely get 2, which is the conspiracy charge. Because the conspiracy is ongoing. Thank you, Greta Van Susteren. The conspiracy is ongoing. It has not ended. Changing your kids' names over and over again? Come on. Like, that's just diabolical. How are all those kids going to have a life? I don't care where you're moving to. We got people in South Africa here that know this case. Are you kidding, lady? Spain, Italy, New Zealand, I get emails from, Australia. Come on. You can't possibly think that you can run hard enough to have those boys keep changing their name when they look like their daddy. They look just like him. Simpson Road, Larry says, Wendy's not free. She's looking over her shoulder every minute. She is, because she's rarely leaving the house. And also, Carl will have Ruth Markel on 22nd. So let me get the Veroscope up. And let's listen to this instead of me for a while.
Statement analysis today of Wendi Adelson's testimony in the trial of Catherine Magbanua, well, actually her retrial. And we're going to be going through the examination of Wendi on the stand, and then we're going to be running through the actual transcript and analyzing it in forensic linguistic detail and performing a statement analysis on what she has to say. If you're new to the trial, and you might be because a lot of the viewers are watching from England now, this is Wendi Adelson. She was married to Dan Markel, and her family, or some of her family, certainly Donna and her brother Charlie, have been convicted of organizing the murder of Dan through hitmen shooting him in the head twice. So is Wendi involved? And we've done an analysis of her police interview on the day of the murder and her phone call that she made to Donna on the day of the murder. And do look at those on the Veriscope channel if you haven't already seen them. We're spotting where Wendi is deceptive in her language, and does it indicate consciousness of guilt. So let's carry on with the actual trial testimony, and we will perform the analysis as we go.
Ms. Kappelman?
Thank you, Your Honor. Please introduce yourself and spell your name.
My name is Wendi Adelson, Wendiadelson.
Ms. Adelson, where do you currently live?
I currently live in Miami Beach.
And are you here today pursuant to a state subpoena?
Yes, I am.
And do all state subpoenas confer immunity?
I don't know if all state subpoenas confer immunity, but this one does.
Okay, and do you believe that your subpoena is special or different from other state subpoenas?
I don't believe it's special or different, so I suppose they all carry immunity.
All right, and does the immunity conferred upon you by the subpoena mean that you can never be prosecuted associated with this case?
That's right.
That's what you think it means?
That's what I think it means.
Okay. And do you think, isn't it true that it's use and derivative use immunity? Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay, but not complete immunity from prosecution. Do you agree with that?
That's different than what you just asked before. So I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
All right, so what I'm trying to allow the jury to understand is what sort of immunity you have. What is your understanding of what it means for you to have immunity pursuant to the state subpoena?
So I have derivative and use immunity. And so in the future, a prosecutor couldn't use what I say here today against me.
Correct. But you could be prosecuted. Just nothing you said here today could be used against you in that prosecution. Do you agree with that?
I suppose so.
Okay. Have you made any sort of special deal with the state attorney's office or with any law enforcement or government agent?
No.
Okay, on that note, do follow the trial channel. They're an excellent channel. They edit the raw trial footage and they break.
No innocent person needs immunity. It doesn't matter. It's automatic. If you're subpoenaed to testify in a trial, criminal or civil in the state of Florida, you automatically have immunity as long as tell the truth. What she says there can be used against her when she lies, like a dog. Also, I mentioned, somebody said, did you see Loophole Lawyer today using your voice in his video? No. We'll have to look at that in a minute. And also, do we know who leased her property? You won't know who leases a property. Leases are completely private.
All of those breaks that are, annoy us so much and take forever. So for uninterrupted, raw, edited trial footage, do look at the trial channel, who are very kindly given their permission for us to use this trial testimony. Now, she talks about immunity and deals. This is the retrial of Catherine Magbanua, who was involved in the murder of Dan, and she's been sentenced to life. She's been found guilty and she's been sentenced to life. However, I've had a little look at the potential Florida law and the mechanisms which could be used if Catherine decides to.
Who doesn't love how he paused her face right here? Look at that.
Cooperate with the state further than she has in the trials which have already happened. And my understanding is that it is possible for the prosecutors and the judge to look at her sentence, and depending on the amount of cooperation that she gives, it's at the prosecutorial discretion, and possibly the parents of Dan Markel would need to be consulted, I suspect. But it is possible that a deal can be done in return for her truthful testimony against Wendi. So we will have to see whether or not that happens. If you know about those laws, please do put them in the comments. Or if you've researched them before and you know some real detail about the complexities of that option for the state of Florida, please do put them in the comments. But in the meantime, let's carry on with the trial testimony.
All right. Was there a time that you lived in Tallahassee?
Yes, I used to live in Tallahassee.
What was the time frame that you lived here?
I was here for about 8 years. I lived here my last year of law school, so the academic year 05-06. We were in Miami for 06-07, and then I would have been back 2007 to 2014.
All right. And what brought you back to Tallahassee after you returned to Miami after law school?
Well, I went to Tallahassee to finish law school, and then we went to Miami because Danny had a job opportunity at University of Miami.
Okay.
It didn't come to fruition. He was not hired, and so we came back to Florida State.
And so your husband had a job opportunity here at Florida State?
Yes,
Okay, and that's what brought you to Tallahassee?
that's what brought us here.
And you also had a job opportunity at Florida State, is that right?
That's right.
What was that job?
I worked at the FSU Center for Human Rights, and at first I was a staff attorney. I used to represent victims of violent crime, asylum seekers, and victims of human trafficking. And then I taught various classes at FSU Law School. And then I ran something called a medical legal partnership.
And how long did you do that?
I was working at FSU for 7 years.
All right, so basically the whole time you were here in Tallahassee.
When I wasn't a student, I was working for FSU.
All right. When did you meet Dan Markel?
Danny and I met first online, and we met when I was starting my 2L year of law school. So that would have been 04, fall of 2004.
And when were the two of you married?
We were married in February 2006.
Do you have any children in common?
We have 2 children,
All right, both boys?
both boys.
All right, during the time that you moved to Tallahassee, the second time to work here at Florida State, were you living with Dr. Markel the entire time as a married couple?
I'm sorry, Dr. Markel?
I'm sorry, Mr. Markel, Dan Markel, your husband.
Were we living as a married couple when we returned to Tallahassee?
Yes.
Yes. So by that point, we returned in August maybe of 06. So we got married in February of 06. We've been married 6 months by then.
And the entire time that you were living as a married couple, was that at the Trescott address that we've seen photos of earlier?
No, we lived first in a rented house. I actually don't remember what neighborhood it was now. It's been a while. But we lived there until we bought our house. So maybe 6 months in the other location. I don't remember exactly how long.
All right, do you remember what year you moved into the Trescott address?
We moved into the Trescott address. Maybe, I don't remember exactly what year. Probably, it would have been 2008 or 2009. It was before my older son was born.
All right, and you were living there he was living there in 2014 when this murder occurred, correct?
He was living there in 2014.
And you were no longer living there?
I stopped living there in 2012.
In 2012, was there a separation first before a divorce, or
Yes, there was a separation.
when was the separation effective?
September 2012.
And whose decision was it to separate?
It was my decision.
And was part of the reason?
Okay, so let's catch up with the actual analysis itself. So it starts off with, are you here today pursuant to a state proceeding? Yes, I am. We establish a baseline in statement analysis, and we see here that Wendi is able to ask very clearly, very succinctly, and very truthfully. Yes, I am. So we start to establish her baseline of how she is truthful, and also we might start to see where she is deceptive. And do all state subpoenas confer immunity? I don't know if all state subpoenas confer immunity, but this one does. Subpoena, sorry. So the opening is unusual because look, she immediately, most witness testimony begins with the basic identification and relationship to the case. This testimony begins with an extended discussion about immunity. Wendi knows she needs legal protection to testify. She speaks with certainty about her subpoena having immunity. This one does. The state is establishing for the record that she is testifying under compulsion. Wendi isn't there cooperatively necessarily, and she's not part of the team with immunity. And this protects later defense claims, if she needs them, which I suspect she will, of a deal or a cooperation agreement. It then goes on. And does the immunity conferred upon you by the subpoena mean that you can never be prosecuted associated with this case? That's right. So Wendi knows this isn't strictly true. So in terms of baseline, we're starting to see how Wendi can be deceptive. This "that's right" isn't really answering the question, is it? That's what you think it means? That's what I think it means. So she can mirror. She's being careful. She knows the actual truth. She doesn't necessarily believe that she's fully protected, but she's trying to give this impression. Okay, and do you think, isn't it true that it's use and derivative use immunity? Do you agree with that? Yes, excuse me for the transcript error. Okay, but not complete immunity. So the prosecutor and Wendi are battling already. Okay, but not complete immunity from prosecution. Do you agree with that? Well, you know, that's different than what you just asked before, so I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question? So we're starting to see the patterns, which if you've been watching the Veriscope channel before, you will begin to recognize. I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? We're beginning to see deceptive accent, for those who know what that means. Watch how our understanding shifts. From the first position, I can never be prosecuted, in effect, in her language, to yes, she agrees. And when challenged, that's different than what you just asked before. So she's being either difficult or picky, or doesn't fully understand, or is attempting to or doesn't like the fact that the jury is now going to know fully that, you know, she is there as a suspect, in effect. And her ego is battling that, in my opinion. So the prosecutor. So what I'm trying to allow the jury to understand is what sort of immunity you have. What is your understanding of what it means for you to have immunity pursuant to the state subpoena? So we have a deceptive reason why, deceptive marker. We would mark this up in blue if it was a statement. I have derivative and use immunity. So she does fully understand. She's also a lawyer. And so in the future, a prosecutor couldn't use what I say here today against me. That's not strictly true. She has to be truthful. Correct. But you could be prosecuted. It's just that nothing said here today could be used against you in that prosecution. Do you agree with that? And look at this. I suppose so. So we're establishing her baseline. I suppose so as weak, it's non-committal, it's non-cooperative. She doesn't like the truth being told to her. She's reluctantly agreeing. When someone agrees with uncertainty, they are not psychologically committed to what they're agreeing to. I suppose so. Now let's compare this to her earlier definitive statement. That's right. And also, let's just go back to where she can be absolutely truthful. If you've seen Lucky's video where he's truthful on the witness stand, you'll recognize the truthful pattern from people. Yes, I am. It's different, isn't it? She's becoming more difficult. So, was there a time that you lived in Tallahassee? Yes, I used to live in Tallahassee. Straightforward. We're establishing her baseline. What was the time frame that you lived here? I was here for about 8 years. I lived here my last year of law school. So the academic year, etc. We were in Miami, etc. So she's giving us a lot of dates. She was actually only asked what was the time frame that you lived here. She provides specific dates without hesitation. She can remember dates and timeframes when she wants to. She will have been studying everything about this case for a long time, as from a lawyer's mindset. So when she can't remember other dates, we must remember when she can and when she can't. And is it the case that she can when it's not dangerous and can't when it is? Because that might signal deception. And if we have deception, we then have to ask, why is there deception? And what brought you back to Tallahassee after you returned to Miami? Well, I went to Tallahassee to finish law school, etc. But look at this. Danny had a job opportunity at University of Miami. It didn't come to a fruition. He was not hired. This isn't part of this question. This is Wendi adding this, and then says, and so we came back to Florida State. She was asked what brought you back to Tallahassee. She volunteers that Danny had a job opportunity at the University of Miami. So this is very important to Wendi, psychologically. And also what's highly important, it didn't come to fruition. Had it come to fruition, perhaps the family wouldn't have needed to murder Dan. He was not hired. So can you see how in forensic linguistics and statement analysis as a principle, we look for unnecessary language. And this is a good example of unnecessary language. And then because we've identified that it's unnecessary language, we would then ask ourselves, why is it important for the author or the narrator or the speaker? Why was it important for them to say this? And look, we've got the motive for the murder. Being in Miami with her children, not staying in Tallahassee with Dan, taking the children away from him. The question was simply, what brought you back? She could have answered, Dan got a job at FSU. Instead, we get all of this unnecessary information and look at the subtleties. It's also victim blaming, isn't it? So there are various deceptive flags which would go into the statement. For those who are new to statement analysis, and for those who have heard me say this many times before, I apologize, but repetition is one way to get good at a skill. Single flags mean nothing per se. So when we put in deceptive flags, they mean nothing per se. So we look for the clusters and the superclusters. That's very important to always have at the forefront of our mind when we're doing an analysis. Passive language is something we look for. The gun went off. Remember that. That's an example of passive language. It didn't come to fruition. He was not hired. But in effect, she's blaming him for what happens in the future. And so your husband had a job opportunity here at Florida State. Yes, okay. And that's what brought you to Tallahassee. That's what brought us here. Here she uses us. Pronouns are important. We recognize, we always mark up pronouns. This is normal and correct. It's appropriate. She and Dan came to Tallahassee together as a couple. So we have the correct pronoun usage, which tells us as a baseline that Wendi does use the pronouns in the correct places when she's telling the truth. And she also had a job, that's right. And she tells us in some detail, and because it's about her, she's quite happy to do so. And look at this though. Yeah, she's quite happy because it's about her to do all of this. She's establishing herself as a helper, a protector, someone who works with victims. It's essentially good image management. And Wendi is practiced at this sort of thing. If she's not showing off about herself in this sort of way, and she's speaking to someone, then perhaps she'll be showing off about who her friends are. But she's always with an eye to manipulation, potentially manipulating the jury about what a wonderful person she is. And how long did you do that? I was working at FSU for 7 years, all right. So she's able to tell the truth. So basically the whole time you were here in Tallahassee. When I wasn't a student, I was working for FSU. Slightly difficult. There's tension between these two. It's palpable, there's tension. They don't like each other. Establishing commitment. Okay. So this goes on to, where did you meet? Notice that she uses Danny. Isn't that strange? This is someone that she hated. And in my opinion, and in many people's opinion, you know, she could well have been involved along with her mother and her brother, who have both been given life sentences already. And she could well have been involved in the crime herself. But no, she wants us to know that it's Danny. I find that unusual. This is close, fake close, in my opinion. Yeah. She will consistently use Danny throughout this testimony. I wonder if she does outside of the courtroom. So here we have, don't forget this early part, we're establishing baseline. Here's interesting. The prosecutor asks, do you have any children? She says, we have 2 children. All right, and the prosecutor, now here, look, she shuts off. Wendi is aware that one of the main motives for the murder, certainly from Donna's perspective, are the grandchildren. So Wendi avoids any real depth or emotion or information. She shuts down. The prosecutor has to, all right, both boys, she shuts down and mirrors. It's as minimal information as absolutely possible, even to the degree of mirroring, which is a technique. Minimal information provided. And then we've almost caught up, and then we got to the residences, didn't we? And with her house, she can't remember a lot. She doesn't know exactly. It's all maybes and could be's, perhapses and ums. Very vague. She should really know. She's been studying what she's going to say on the witness stand for quite a while. She knows these questions are coming, but psychologically, it's not coming very easily to her. Can't really remember, maybes, don't remembers, probablys, would have beens. See the pattern? So in go the deceptive markers. Again, individual flags don't mean anything, but we look for patterns. And when we see clusters, we can start to go, this statement appears deceptive. And then we can go deeper. So we've got extreme hedging as a pattern, but she can anchor it to a time period. Okay, so I think we've caught up. When was the separate? Ah, yes. So this is where we got to, isn't it? So when was the separation effective? Now, yes, there was a separation. Now, with the separation, she's boom, specific and no hedging. Truthful. This is her truthful pattern. It's actually the pattern of most people who are truthful. It's straightforward. It answers the question, and there's no hedging. So as a baseline, which we've almost established now with Wendi, where it's convenient for her, she can't remember. And when she can remember, she's either happy about the date or there's specific meaning to her. And in this case, it represents freedom. September 2012. Crystal clear. And whose decision was it to separate? It was my decision. Clear, unambiguous, no hedging. This is Wendi's pattern of truth. So we've established baseline for Wendi to some degree here. Okay, let's continue with the trial.
For the separation, differing views on how your children should be raised within the Jewish faith?
I mean, that's certainly part of it, but not really a central decision. It was more just our relationship overall. I mean, Danny certainly wasn't, we were on different pages when it came to religion, but I wouldn't say that was.
And that's what I'm specifically inquiring about, was that part of it? So I think your answer is yes, that was part of it.
Sure.
Okay, you are both Jewish, correct?
Yes.
All right, and both of you did agree to raise the children within the Jewish faith?
We did.
And
we have.
Okay, so what were the differences between the two of you on that front?
Probably in the observance of keeping kosher. So I don't keep kosher, and Danny did, and that became difficult to do in Tallahassee and difficult to do with differing beliefs around that.
Can you explain for the jurors what keeping kosher means?
Sure. It's a separation of milk from meat. So you couldn't have a cheeseburger, for example, right? You couldn't have milk with a meat product. And the meat has to be killed in a ritual specific way that's been blessed by a rabbi. And you're not supposed to eat shellfish of any kind, so no seafood. There's a lot more rules, but those are just some high-level ones.
All right, and was it very important to your husband that the children be raised on a kosher diet?
It was, yes.
All right, and that was something that was not important to you?
It's not a question of it not being important to me. It just started to supersede other things that are important, like love and trust.
Okay, did that diet seem impractical to you?
At times it was complicated. I mean, there was one particular time I had taken the boys to a picnic for one of my clients for one of her children, And my older son had pizza, and Danny was very, very upset about this. He was maybe 1 at the time, but it was.
Okay, I don't know if it's just me, but I've seen Wendi not in front of a jury when she's chatting with her friend Jane, for example, in the police station on the day of the murder. And she doesn't do the doe-eyed, open-mouthed, butter wouldn't melt look, but she's doing it here. And I just get the impression that she's acting. And if somebody's acting on the witness stand, that in itself is a deceptive marker. Truthful witnesses don't need to put on a pantomime. It might be just me, but this open-mouthed, innocent, doe-eyed look, I don't know. It's maybe it's just me. Okay, let's see where we got up to. We've been establishing the baseline as to how she speaks truthfully, and also we've started to get a feel for how she is when she's deceptive. We saw her start to introduce victim blaming. Here we have some deception pattern. I mean is what we call sensitive, so it appears twice. I mean. So we ask, why is this sensitive? Certainly, not really, I wouldn't say. For those who have been following and have already experienced now in statement analysis, you'll recognize this quickly. So in go the flags. Are we having self-censorship? And we're having minimizing. Sure. So this is the first time that we've seen this pattern. We're seeing the weak, reluctant agreement, similar to the I suppose so earlier. Yeah, compared to it was my decision, strong ownership. So we're doing well establishing the pattern. Okay, so she's telling us about kosher food, educating the jury. It was important to Dan to have a good religious upbringing. The prosecutor says, but not so important to you. And here we have, it's not a question, well, it is a question, but look at this, it's not a question of it not being important to me. Well, it is, Wendi, because you've been asked it. It's just started to supersede other things that are important, like love and trust. This stands out because it's not actually answering the question. This is the sort of technique that people do when they're gaslighting and manipulating. They change the entire question and put in its place love and trust. And then they might even begin to answer this. And nothing to do with your original question. And look at the technique. So here's the question, and then, no, that's not the question. What's really the question is my new thing that I'm going to introduce. It's a gaslighting technique, and she's practiced and skilled at manipulation and gaslighting. So here we have the accusation, love and trust. She's asked if kosher diet was not important to you. Her answer escalates dramatically. Dietary rules began to supersede other things that are important, like love and trust. She's accusing Dan of choosing dietary rules for the children's religious upbringing over love and trust. So it's a huge leap, isn't it? It's essentially gone from diet and religion to character assassination. Nobody asked about love and trust. So as a principle, we have deception through gaslighting. Gaslighting isn't a principle of statement analysis, but in effect, we have unnecessary information. But it's also gaslighting. Why this matters? She's building justification. I had to leave. He had to go because he chose rules over love. That's what she's saying. She's looking for the moral justification for her actions. And strange, isn't it, that the real morals of religious upbringing and teaching the children about their religion, the real morals, she introduces a switch to love and, look at this, trust. Absolute gaslighting manipulation, with her mother and her brother having murdered her husband, and her possible involvement, which, if Catherine is encouraged to tell the truth, we might well see one day Wendi at trial. And of course, we'll be analysing all of that. Okay, so have we caught up? Let's see where we are.
It was pizza that wasn't kosher, and so that became challenging.
All right, so this was something that sort of came up as an issue during the course of the marriage.
It did.
All right, and other things as well. I don't mean to suggest that it was based solely on the children's diets, but that was something that is going to come up later, and I wanted to make sure the jurors understood what was meant by kosher diet. All right, did you move out of the marital home when you separated?
I did.
And where did you go to live when you left the marital home?
I rented a house, and I went to that house.
All right, was that at...
Incorrectamundo, your mother rented a house and you went to that house.
Aqua Ridge residence?
Yes, it was.
Just 3303 Aqua Ridge, sound right?
That sounds right.
Okay, and that location is here in Leon County, right?
It is.
Okay, as well as the Trescott residence.
They're both in Leon County.
About how far apart are those two residences?
I think it used to take about 15, 20 minutes to drive, depending on traffic.
How long after you moved out of the home did you file for divorce?
I actually don't remember the answer to that. I'm assuming I would have filed for divorce right away.
Within a month, sound about right?
That sounds about right.
Okay, I'm going to show you Exhibit 59 and ask you to take a look at the exhibit. I do not expect you to look at everything in this exhibit. But I think you had an opportunity to look at this exhibit previously a little bit, right?
I don't have any memory of that.
Okay. So this is the first time you've ever seen this exhibit?
It's the first time I remember. It's
right,
very big.
Take a look and kind of just thumb through it.
Deception.
I don't expect you to familiarize yourself with every page.
They really don't like each other at all.
Question, Ms. Adelson.
In this case, we didn't learn that until Donna's trial. That's when we learned. So 2 trials later, like this trial was Katie Magbanua's, the next one was Charlie's, then Donna's. That's when we learned the lease was signed by Donna Jacobs. So it wasn't even a valid lease because she lied on the lease. Wasn't even valid. I'm not an attorney, but that's not valid.
You can look through it as much as needed to answer this question.
She had a question. What was your question?
It looks like it's about 800 pages long. So you want me to
I want you to look through it as much as is needed to answer.
She's such a fucking moron.
answer the following question. Does it appear to be a fair and accurate copy of your divorce file?
I mean, from the front page, sure.
Okay. Do you have, thumb through it a little bit and just see if there's any reason to dispute that that's your complete divorce file from the clerk's office. It's certified if you want to take a look at the certification.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, so I want you to take a look, if you would.
They used a property manager, so she didn't get to speak to the landlord. I know who the property manager was. He doesn't easily get charmed, but a check is a check.
At the petition that is on State's Exhibit 59, pages 1 through 5.
The one right on top?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All the pages should be numbered through, so I'm referring to 1 through 5 on the bottom right corner there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that was your petition for divorce, correct?
Yes.
And so would you agree that this was a contentious divorce?
I think it was made much more difficult by Danny, who didn't want to get divorced, but sure, we can call it contentious.
Not what we would classify as an amicable divorce. You hear about those?
No, it would be not an amicable divorce.
All right. And part of what you were seeking in your divorce in these documents in front of you was permission from the court to move with your children to South Florida. Is that correct?
That was part of the overall divorce proceedings.
All right. And specifically on pages 43 through 50, there's a petition to include a request to be allowed to relocate with minor children. Is that correct?
Typically, when you sign a lease, you ask for a copy of a driver's license. It's unknown if that was provided or not. Again, that much money up front, sometimes people just take it. We all work differently. There's no rules, but I want a driver's license.
Yes. All right. And why were you seeking to move to South Florida?
I was seeking.
It could be a business check. It does not have to be a check in that person's name. It's just a check. You just make a copy of the check and you deposit the check. As long as the memo line says what the check is for, bingo boingo, you have a check. Like I had one. It was this girl's attorney. I didn't care. The check said for rent. Guess what got cashed? That check.
A place that would be stable and permanent for the kids and me. Danny never planned.
No, that is something that one of her stupid attorneys said. The divorce attorney mentioned an apartment, but it wasn't. It was always Aqua Ridge.
On staying in Tallahassee. It was just a question of time before he moved to New York to be with his girlfriend or had dreams of being at Harvard. So Tallahassee was just a temporary stopping point. I wanted a place that was permanent for us, where we had family support.
And why?
That twat. We won't really know, will we? Because you murdered him. So we won't really know what a stopping point was for him.
Why did South Florida seem like a place of permanence to you?
Right. I mean, because we had family support, because I work in immigration, there were a lot of career opportunities for me there.
Are you from South Florida?
I am.
Okay. And when you say family support, what family resided there?
My mother, father, and brother.
Was the relocation to South Florida the most important part of your divorce?
No.
Was it your most non-negotiable term?
No.
Okay. But it was very important to you?
I wouldn't say it was very important to me.
Was it very important to your mother?
She was much more looking forward to having her daughter and her grandchildren home. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
YB, I think that was the one before he was murdered that she stood him up. The one where the whole thing was planned. That would be circumstantial evidence, but that is what I believe is true.
Okay, let's see where we are. Okay, so the pizza incident. Danny was very, very, very upset. She's told this story a few times. essentially it's used to make her points and for Danny to look bad. Yeah, this I wasn't too sure about. All right, so this was something that sort of came back as an issue. It did. All right, and other things as well. I don't mean to suggest that it was based solely on the children's diets, but that was something that is going to come up later, and I wanted to make sure the juries understood what was meant by kosher diet. All right, and then hear this question, and I got confused. If you hear it better than I do, please do say in the comments, because it's important. Did you move out of the marital home when you separated? And she either said A did, or they did, or I did, or a sort of mixture of A and I, but it came across as almost like hey, but with a silent H, like A did. Now, the reason why it's important is if she did say they did, and do listen again if you have the chance or if you have good audio, it's because she was asked, when you did you move out? If she said they did, the only other people that she could be referring to are the children. And the children are the reason for this whole crime, the murder of Dan. I mean, yes, there was some money involved. I believe that she got about 2 million for the life insurance, and I suspect some other monies as well. But it was really the children that were the driver as to why her mother and her brother hired the hitmen to have Danny murdered. Wasn't necessarily the money that Wendi was going to get. So she's asked you, but she says they, I think. And so on her mind is the reason for she's used the wrong pronoun, is what I'm saying. But please do check. So it could have been I did, but if it was they did, then it's a critical.
I'm sure Donna will be fine. I doubt she will be raped. Let's just face it. Who would want to listen to that? I think she's safe.
Finding, because she pronouns.
Plus, she's going to be in close custody. She'll be in solitaire for a while.
Pronouns are very reliable to tell us what's going on in their thinking. Yeah. I'm not absolutely certain, but we mark it just in case.
No one.
The central focus. But I could be wrong. So always bear in mind when doing statement analysis that we need to be flexible.
YB, they don't fuck her in the ears, but let's just say. When will we know what prison Donna will go into? Probably about 6 weeks. So I called Department of Corrections today about another question I have, and I'll let y'all know that when I get the answer. But because I'm just going to the horses now. I'm just going straight to the horse. But they said it's 6 to 8 weeks.
And we need to be open to correction. And we need to be open to changing the analysis.
She also testified that she only is going to Vietnam for peace and quiet. Okay, so her testimony doesn't really work. No offense.
Is when we receive further information rather than being entrenched. Okay. So that sounds right. Aqua Ridge. Doesn't have a problem with Aqua Ridge, does she? Now then, the Trescott residence. She's building, so she's sensitive about time. About how far apart are those two residences? I think it used to take about 15 to 20 minutes to drive, depending on the traffic. So let's have a look. It's not quite an answer to the question, is it? But it's important to her the way she's answered it. I think, so we've got a qualifier, we've got processing hesitation. It's essentially purchasing more cognitive.
Sorry I'm interrupting Alistair. So when I called the jail and asked and did a FOIA request online for Suitcase Sarah. And I was told that her conversations in the jail were not evidence and therefore I could not receive. I don't know what they're going to release or when they're going to release it. I don't know. I did that one FOIA request. And I'm like, it's just what they told me. They're like, oh, there was a federal Supreme Court, blah, 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 whatever.
Time to think. It used to take past tense distancing about, so we've got a pattern, 15, 20, correction mid.
Charlie's calls were released by the state attorney's office. That was different. I called the jail and they're like, that's not evidence. I don't know if the state attorney would release them or not for Suitcase Sarah. I didn't get that far. So
answer depending on traffic. So the whole thing about the distance between the two residences is, and this is what is difficult to understand when first learning statement analysis. When we say that the sentence is deceptive, we're not saying that it doesn't take about 15 or 20 minutes to drive, depending on the traffic. We're saying that the linguistic architecture of the answer has deceptive patterns in it. I hope that makes sense because there's a difference. I think it used to take about 15 or 20, depending. Do you see? So just because there are deceptive flags, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not true. Does that make sense? It just means the brain is using, it means it's sensitive. There's
check with your accountant, but a home equity line of credit is not always a tax write-off. Check with your accountant.
There's a reason why this distance causes this sort of language to answer the question. It's being careful. Why is she being careful? Timing matters. Because on the day of the murder, timing matters. Okay, and we have a comparison. When we hear this word, the person is comparing. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. It just tells us that they're comparing inside their mind. This all happens rapidly. I actually don't remember the answer to that question. The answer to that, I'm assuming I would have filed. So this becomes sensitive and has flags. assuming actually would have right away within, do you see? Mirroring. Mirroring is a tactic of Wendy's. When being a lawyer and being careful with her words, she's using the mirroring tactic to give away as little as possible whilst cooperating. I think this is the third time we see this this technique, and we're only about what, 10 minutes into the trial examination. We have clear memory patterns at certain times and vague memory patterns at other times. So when presented with the document, the exhibit, I don't have any memory of that, challenged. It's the first time I remember it's very big. Unnecessary language. She weakens her claim. I don't have it. So she's not saying that she can't, but for some reason, she doesn't want to get connected to the exhibit psychologically. So she's rejecting it, but she doesn't have the courage for the outright lie. So she's using the sort of gaslighting language that she will often have used throughout her whole life. And so it comes very naturally to her. I don't have any memory of that. It's the first time so now we have the admission, don't we? It's the first time I remember. Can you see? It's very big, look. So it's this is a thought that she has. There's nothing to do with the question, is it? Anxiety about what's in there and how much is in there. Documents that she's filed. She claims no memory of seeing the exhibits before. The lawyer that's filed her divorce papers. It's very big. She knows what's in there. It's just no. I believe this is a transcript error. This was somebody else in the courtroom. It just minimization. We always look for this. It looks like it's about 800 pages long. So you want me to? So she's being picky and difficult whilst smiling and doe-eyed, and that open-mouthed, hard to breathe kind of look that she has. So you want me to?
I think the only thing Wendi got from her mother that she wanted was the murder of her husband, ex-husband. Everything else, her mother dictated in her life, except for this. And then it only benefited Donna as well, or it wouldn't have happened.
She knows that this is going to start revealing an awful lot that she doesn't want revealed.
And whoever believes that Wendi was actually a virgin by the time she graduated from high school, I got some property to sell you. No way. She's too much of a slut. I mean, clearly she's probably had, she's in her 40s. I bet she's had more than 10 or 12 men. Easily. And I'm not judging. You want to be a slut, be a slut. But don't be all like he's in a relationship or trying to be all high and mighty about everything else in your life and talk about trust. Meanwhile, you're bagging whoever man will slap your ass.
Okay. I'm speeding up a little bit for the sake of, I don't want people to get too bored. Obviously, the divorce is contentious. So this was, would you agree that this was a contentious divorce? Now, we've seen how she can answer truthfully, but we get, I think it was, I think it was. So we know this pattern, don't we? Was made much more difficult by Danny. So immediately we have, I think it was I think it was. So we know whatever comes afterwards, on the whole, on the average, is highly likely to be deceptive and most likely the opposite. And it was made much more difficult by Danny, who didn't want to get divorced, but sure, we can call it contentious.
I'm serious. There's no way that woman was a virgin till graduate high school. There's just no way. And I don't care what you do in your sex life. I don't think any of us really care. I don't care. You're not giving me an STD, Jill. But my God, to sit there on that stand and imply that Dan Markel was not trustworthy, you deserve everything that's coming to you, lady. Everything that's coming to you.
So here we have a sentence which we would mark as deceptive, and we have the deception patterns and the sensitivity which help us to come to that conclusion. Was made, passive construction, blame placed on the victim. It's his opposition is the problem. Dismissive, reluctant agreement at the end. The arrogance, the sort of callous behavior that we've seen in the past with Wendi being shown here with the dismissive but reluctant agreement. With the prosecutor, who she really doesn't like at all.
Well, luckily it's mutual.
So we have minimizing, we have blaming, we have distancing, we have resistance.
No, she didn't imply that. Well, she implied he wasn't trustworthy. And that was in the beginning of this. This is almost over. But in the beginning of this, she implied, when George is asking her about kosher and that witch is talking about a fucking cheeseburger. And then she goes, well, it wasn't just about being kosher. It was about trust. Trust? I mean, there were 3 or 4 guys while she's screwing Jeffrey Lacoste. So there's 5. Then you got Dan. She probably wasn't faithful to Dan.
And eventually we have a truthful statement. But framed in the negative, which is doubly important as a principle of statement analysis. It's an unusual.
How many of the guys that she was fucking moved out of our area? They moved. Who wants to be associated with that? Jorge.
Linguistic structure, isn't it? Prosecutor pushes. No, it would be not an amicable divorce. Notice this structure. Stated in the negative. She's resisting, she's deceptive, she's gaslighting. We haven't even started the examination. We're only establishing the basics.
Georgia brought that up during this trial that she called him an STD. Jorge, get it?
They're very simple questions. The relocation issue, which is really the whole hub of the trial, and the motivation. Moving to South Florida, staying in Tallahassee was so horrible for Wendi. And he didn't get the job in Miami, so it's Danny's fault.
Patty, when did she start with Miguel? I don't know. Was that the guy she said she dated right after serving Dan, the one she was friends with that became more? Miguel was pretty sure he was on a break from his marriage. So when I went researching Miguel was married. If the timeline is what that heifer says it is, he was, she didn't care. Woman has the morality of a toenail. She does not care. And that's why the high and mighty pisses me off so much. Be who you are, which is a murderous slut. Be who you are. But don't go on about the man who was murdered by your family, and likely with your assistance, about trust. That is so bad. That's why she's so disliked. She can't, it oozes out of her hatred for Dan Markel. Oozes. Anyone who thinks anything else is just like Glenn Thomas, delusional. It oozes out of her disdain for his family and for him. She will not be whenever. I don't know anything about a bar mitzvah. I don't. Bat mitzvah, bar mitzvah, I know nothing. But when you heard her in that slut dress at a temple, okay, talking about Abba, I just almost fell out. Almost fell out. She despises him. To this day, she cannot stop despising him.
She wanted to be in Florida with her parents. For family support. Works in immigration. So here, the triple denial of importance. Was the relocation to South Florida the most important part of your divorce? No. So here we have baseline for how she is deceptive in the negative, in my opinion. No. Nothing afterwards. Was it the most non-negotiable term? No. Okay. But it was very important to you. I wouldn't say it was very important to me. It was, and I think the reason it's unfortunate because I don't think we can say Wendi has now contradicted herself. I suspect she was interrupted. I can't remember. I'll have to look at the video again. Huge minimization compared to what we know is the motivation for the murder.
Let's go to the question mentioning where did Wendi live when she went to South Florida. So when she would visit her family while being married to Dan Markel. She stayed in her teenage bedroom. When they sold that house, and I don't know if the photos are still up on that Coral Springs house, it was still Wendy's teenage bedroom. Like, that's what it was. It never changed. She was freaking in her 30s with 2 kids that she says she's breastfeeding, which, let's face it, in her teenage bedroom. When they murdered Dan, that March, they had signed a lease for the Continuum, which was a rental, which is where they talked about, Robert talked about as testimony that it was armed guards and they needed protection. So they added Wendi to the lease to make her a resident. That's where like Akon lived and A-Rod. I think it was A-Rod lived there. And well, I think Akon the rapper lived there too. So it's armed like it's weapons. They carry like weapons in holsters. So that was what I believe when I found it. It was the lure to get her to like, yeah, I'm going to live on this beach continuum, which is on Point Boulevard. And it is like 3-sided views of the water. It's real close to where the cruise ships come in Miami. It overlooks it. So it's very, very prime property. They were paying $13,000 a month while still owning the Coral Springs. Here's the lie that Wendi told. Wendi told in these other trials that she moved in with her parents in Coral Springs. Charlie testified that Wendi moved into a small unit with her mother and father, the parents. I don't think Harvey ever moved into that unit. Donna was probably there watching the kids while Wendi hoed around. But see, it was okay for her to slutify herself down in Miami where the bait is much more high end. So she was just, let's face it, she was a whore. I mean, she got paid. She wanted a job. She wanted a judge. She wanted whatever. She was a whore. And her mother was okay with it down there because they were higher end bait.
Was it very important to your mother? She was much more looking, so she doesn't give a straight answer. She was much more, which means that other people were. She was much more looking forward to having her daughter and her grandchildren home. Yeah. So here we have a reluctant truth. And this is the final question that we got up to. So, yeah. I'll go a little bit slow. Some of you have said, please go a little bit slower as I run through the end of the analysis. So she has some clear recalls, some vague recalls, possible pronoun errors, some passive language, lots of extreme hedging in certain parts of the transcript, some minimization. No, I wouldn't say it was very important. We have blame shifting. We have lots of unnecessary language, unnecessary detail, normally attributing negative to Dan in the pattern. Some physical stress and cognitive overload patterns. The prosecutor is very organized. She's very specific. We haven't even started. And she isn't asking random questions. Okay, so we've established a baseline. We've got some of the deception indicators for Wendi. We've already got some testimony revealing certain aspects of the trial. And this is just the beginning. Okay, so that brings us to the end of today's analysis of Wendi. And I look forward to speaking.
Man, that really pissed me off. When you watch these over and over again, you just hear so much more, right? You just do. Now I gotta go to
Speak to you in the comments. If you haven't already subscribed.
Somebody said Loophole used my voice today, so. Is it a Karen Reed thing? Does anyone know? Did anyone watch it? Was it the Karen Reed video? For Magic Hoo-Ha for main course? Come on. It wasn't very long since he lost his wife. You didn't see Loophole today? Yeah, someone's saying that I think it was Frank, said that he used my voice. Yes, Dateline is airing the case on Friday. Mm-hmm. How long is this video? I will be on Dateline. I don't know about that. They didn't interview me if that's... Oh. Victim to verdict. It's going to be good. Good, Debbie. I'm glad. How long is this video? 17 minutes. Oh, in the video from the courtroom. Well, hopefully it's one of my good hair days. Does anyone know Veroscope's background? I don't really care if he's a computer geek with pimples surrounded by Hot Pocket packs. I'm just curious. He has a LinkedIn. Let me share with you his LinkedIn. His name is Alistair Lee. He doesn't look like a geek with Hot Pockets laying around. It's like a girl's photo he like edged out. Weybridge, England. So here's his bio. Building AI interview systems. His channel's new. So that's it. Joel talks on it. Yeah, I figured Joel would since he has that national. Thanks for answering our question. Who the heck do we think I am anyway, asking all these questions? He is very good, but it's justifiable. Like, who is this guy? My hair will be on point. Well, that's what really counts, right? I mean, I need to be superficial. I love him too. I mean, I know there's some other ones. Somebody mentioned some guy named Terry. Terry, Truth,
And
like
that does not nullify.
lies to something. Hold on.
Obvious that all those.
Oh, I see. Oh, I see what he's doing. Look at this. So this isn't about Karen Reed. I don't really care. Don't get all, huffy one way or the other. I just want to see how this guy does this. I do get makeup from Temu. That's so funny. I do get my makeup from Temu. What is it? Give me your makeup from Temu. Do you mind telling me the name of the makeup? Well, the actual foundation is no longer Temu. Oh, not because I couldn't get refills. I mean, there's a bitch. Because once something sells out on Temu, you're done. Like, that's it. But I use lip from Temu, eyeshadow. The eyeshadow I have on right now, which I don't even know if you could see. Let me see. It's a purple pink, which you can't really tell because of lighting in here. I ordered new lighting, so hopefully it'll come in. But in the next couple days, let's see. What else do I use? I use mascara. I've used mascara, but not today. My eyes hurt very much right now. My right eye hurts, so I'm not using Temu mascara. But I also use eyeliner. And I use the black, to create a wing eyeliner. It's so funny. And brow. Hilarious. Your face has been glowing lately. Well, thank you. I've lost a lot of weight. And we'll watch this video. But I started Friday night. I started a GLP-3, which is a test. I'm a test dummy for Eli Lilly, which I don't even care. So I started the shot. I was on a GLP-1, which was Zepbound. Tirzepatide is the generic. And I started the GLP-3, which I don't even know how to use that name. It's Retra something side. Anyway, it's developed by Eli Lilly. It hits 3 receptors. I took it Friday night late. I started getting a cough and I thought, oh my God, I'm going to have the worst reflux again. Went and took the apple cider vinegar. If you've been following me, you understand I had reflux for a while. And I take apple cider vinegar and water at night. And so that went away. And I'm not kidding you. By morning, I felt like a 25-year-old woman. I do not know what happened. Something about the glucogen and using it to create more energy. I walked. Now, I am lazy. I do a lot of work, but I don't do a lot of exercise. I walked 2.89 miles with my dog Saturday after, right at sunset. I took some photos. I took my camera with me, and I felt fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. The next day I was sore because I haven't walked 2.89 miles in about 15 years, but I felt fantastic. I could not even believe it. To this minute, I'm yawning because I'm obviously getting tired, but it's 11:40. I've been up since 6 o'clock this morning, and I cannot believe the difference between the GLP-1 and the GLP-3. I cannot believe the difference. I feel like I've lost more weight from Friday to now. I have jeans on that were Friday. I wore them Friday night, were a little tight, around the waist and hips. They were jeans I tucked away. I haven't worn them since I bought them. They never fit. I didn't try them on. And now they're loose. Swear to God. I don't care what I have to do to buy this drug. I'm going to order 15 more. I swear to God. If I feel like this at the end of the week, so the half-life is 6 days, which the drug life is 6 days. And so it carries you for the week. If I feel anywhere near this on Wednesday, I'm ordering a case before Eli Lilly can jack the price up. Absolutely incredible. I've never taken anything and felt like I did when I was 40. Like, that's how I feel. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. And so I didn't think I'd lose much more. I didn't think, because I'm so sedentary. But I definitely feel weight loss this week. So I drank, they said because you do lose weight faster, that I drank 2 shakes today. So that was probably 80 grams of protein. I bought the higher end shake, not the 30. They were 40 grams of protein each. So it was 80 grams of protein. I had some chicken salad and some turkey. And that was it. I'm laughing just even thinking about it. Like, it's making me like hilariously laughing. So anyway, that's update on that. People have asked. So here's Loophole Lawyer, and he uses my voice, so I want to hear it.
And that does not nullify the evidence that says that Johnny was hit by Alexis.
Like, everything that Karen Reed did that morning was for her and not to get help for John O'Keefe. It seems so obvious that all those screaming and were theatrics that she put on that night. She acted hysterical, but I still hear from the Free Karen readers, Carrie, and Jen didn't seem upset.
From that moment on, I had formulated my opinion of what happened.
She's a bitch. Is that right?
Yes.
A whack job. A retard. Her balloon knot leaks. No ass. Ass leak. A girl who shits herself. And then fuck her. Correct?
Correct. She's a whack job. CUNT.
So don't spell it. These are your words, Trooper Proctor?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead and say them.
There's a man passed out in the snow.
Cunt.
She looked at her hands and she had blood. She asked us if she could have gotten her period.
Roll him over, roll him over. And she said, no, don't roll him over. So we're screaming at each other.
It's my great pleasure to be once again with John O'Keefe's friend, Brendan Kane.
Some YouTuber named Roberta interviewed John O'Keefe's best friend, and he still believes Karen Reed murdered John O'Keefe. Let's find out why.
For the past 2 years, Brendan Kane has worn a baseball cap with John O'Keefe's badge number printed on the front and his initials on the back.
And how often do you wear it?
Constantly. The last time I saw him was about 3 weeks before he passed. We actually went to a Bruins game together, my wife and I, and he and Karen.
Kane says that was the one and only time he met Karen Reed, and that he never saw or heard about any trouble in the couple's relationship.
I feel like I was fooled.
By whom?
By Karen.
Kane says he started to have suspicions even before Reed was arrested. He says he never believed Reed's defense story that someone else killed his friend,
Brian Higgins,
and that police covered it up.
I use castor oil. I've started putting it, like, I take a flat makeup brush that's clean, like those wide foundation, and I just slather castor oil all over my face and neck.
There's no evidence. There's absolutely no evidence to support the false narrative.
This dope is partially correct. There was no large, big conspiracy. Guess what? Proctor, as well as Yuri Buchanan, were not in on the conspiracy. The only people that covered it up were Brian Higgins, Brian Albert, and the chief of police, Kenny Berkowitz.
That they spread across the internet. Michael Proctor could have written text messages that he didn't know would go public.
She's a bitch. Is that right?
Yes.
A whack job. A retard. Her balloon knot leaks. No ass. Ass leak. A girl who shits herself. And then fuck her. Correct?
Correct. She's a whack job.
I use it at night before I go to sleep. My mornings are very hard. I don't like getting up. I'm not a morning person. It's extremely challenging for me to get up out of the bed. So I don't waste my time. Plus, it takes so long to absorb in your skin. So I'll do it. I'll wash the makeup off my face and then I have a big bottle of cold press castor oil, and it doesn't take much. I mean, it spreads nicely, and that's what I use. How long have I been using it? A long time. I mean, I have very few wrinkles. So I don't know if that's the reason. I mean, plus I'm losing weight. So I was very concerned about getting baggy, skin and losing too much. And, It's not yet. It hasn't been yet. I think it's just the beginning of this thing. But I've used it for a while.
CUNT.
So don't spell it. These are your words, Trooper Proctor?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead and say them.
Cunt.
Can you imagine how happy Brian Albert and Higgy Bear were when they found out those two dopes, Yuri Buchanan and Proctor, were assigned to the case? Those two had nothing to do with planting the evidence, but it was so easy to fool them.
Regret sending, and that does not nullify the evidence that says that Johnny was hit by Alexis.
Johnny and I.
It's for humor. Why is Roberta depicted as a 90-year-old lady? To make fun of it. He doesn't know what Roberta looks like.
We grew up together on the same street. We met when we were 4. We went to school, elementary, junior high, high school, all the way through. Stayed close friends during college. He would visit me wherever I lived. Prior to Johnny's death, everybody in Johnny's orbit liked Karen.
If he was such good friends with Johnny, he certainly would have heard some complaints from him about Karen, because that's what guys do.
There wasn't a single person that said, I don't think he should be dating her. Everything we could see looked like a happy relationship. But the key to that is that you don't know what happens behind closed doors.
Of course we know what happens behind closed doors. Nobody in a long-term relationship is truly happy. We all know that.
I met John in February of 2004. We maybe dated another couple weeks after that. And then I went to work in Ireland just temporarily. But because of that, I stopped seeing him and I just lost touch.
From what I understand, he put out a Facebook message to several ex-girlfriends, and she was the one to reply.
Oh, Johnny Boy did the same thing most of us guys do. We send out a mass email to all the girls we hooked up with in the past and see who replies. Girls, if a guy from your past ever responds to you randomly, he really just wants to hook up.
What is this like going through something like this?
I still think about him every day. Talk to the family regularly, and that's my personal way of coping. Is there anything I can do to try to help? Mainly because I know for a fact he would have done the exact same thing for me.
How did you start to put the pieces together as to how Karen Reed murdered your friend?
About 10 o'clock in the morning on January 29th, 22, I got a call from another one of our friends, but I didn't get over there till the next morning, the 30th. Let's take Occam's razor, the real definition of Occam's razor, not Alan Jackson's definition of Occam's razor. The simplest explanation would be you got hit by a plow. It was a horrible snowstorm, second worst snowstorm the area had seen. And even
Occam's razor simply means that the sharpest razor is the best razor.
on my drive over there on the 30th, I'm still thinking this.
She appeared on Court TV full-faced on Court TV in the morning during the trial for Karen Reed.
Potentially was accidental. Carrie Roberts walked in about 5 minutes after I did.
Carrie! Was that a lie? Did you lie? I did not intentionally.
But you did.
And not intentionally. Okay, that's the end of this. Understood the question, Mr. Jackson.
And that was a false statement, wasn't it?
Technically.
Technically?
Yes,
It's like being a little
technically.
bit pregnant, Miss Roberts.
I said I misunderstood the question, Mr. Jackson.
I said, what happened? And she started to recount her narrative. What she told me that morning was identical to everything she testified twice.
Did you lie? I did not intentionally.
She's going through the entire story, and then she gets to the point where she says, so Jen and I are white knuckle driving with Karen in the back seat, and she's screaming, she's histrionic, and we get close to Fairview, and Karen starts kicking and punching at her door, screaming, let me out, let me out. And Carrie turned to Jen and said, the verbatim was, this bitch is crazy. And Jen's like, I have no idea what she's doing. Carrie unlocked the door. Karen made the beeline out the side of the car onto the lawn. Carrie said we couldn't see more than 3 or 4 feet in front of us. We had absolutely no idea what was going on. You couldn't see him on the lawn. She goes, no, he was. And then when we got over there, he was half covered in snow, and Karen had jumped on top of him. And that's when I looked at Carrie, and that was the click for me. That was the
Confirmation bias means that when you make a conclusion initially, you exclude all evidence that comes to you that would contradict that initial conclusion. Many of you out there do the same thing with regard to Colin Albert. You first heard that Colin Albert was involved. Therefore, all the evidence that indicates that he wasn't involved, your brain mentally excludes. The same thing goes for Hen McCabe's Google search at 2:27 in the morning. All the evidence indicates that it was made later on in the day, but you exclude it. However, this guy here is doing the same thing. He believes that just because Karen Reed saw a huge ass lump in the front of 34 Fairview and was able to run to John real quickly, somehow that made her guilty. Now he's excluding and not acknowledging all the evidence that indicates obviously that Brian Higgins committed this murder and Karen Reed never did.
Moment for me where I said, how in God's name did she know where he was? If you were out there, randomly looking for him, retracing his steps.
It wasn't random, you big dope. That was the place she dropped him off and the last place she saw him. In these white suburbs, the land is very flat. Even if you're a body covered in snow, it's going to be very obvious.
That she knew exactly where his resting place was, under a mound of snow. And so that was, from that moment on, I had formulated my opinion of what happened.
From that moment on, I formulated my opinion of what happened. This is classic confirmation bias.
What did you know at that time exactly? Did you think she hit him with her car? Did you think what were you thinking?
The day before, when I talked to Paul and I said to him, look, I don't want to start anything here. I'm just curious. I'm like, did anybody look at the back of her car? And Paul said, you know what, somebody else just said that before. I was like, really? And he goes, they're gone. I said, what do you mean they're gone? And he goes, they came back after the hospital. She gathered some of her stuff and she was gone in like 15 minutes. And then the piece of the story that still really irritates me is that I guess in that 15-minute period, as Paul was relaying the news of Johnny's death to Patrick, Karen was on the couch next to Paul. So she's there. She's sitting there as Paul is relaying to this kid that his third guardian of his life is now gone. That piece still really pisses me off.
Confirmation bias is hitting this big dope big time. He said, did anyone check the back of Karen's car? If there was a dent, obviously it could indicate she did hit John O'Keefe. But we saw clear evidence of a video of her car hitting into John O'Keefe's other car. He excluded that evidence. Classic confirmation bias.
Did she comfort him? Did she?
Not a word from what Paul said. Just sat there.
Just got her murder vehicle and hightailed it out of there. To me, it seems so obvious.
Maybe Frank thinks I'm Roberta.
That all those screaming and were theatrics that she put on that night. She acted hysterical, but I still hear from the Free Karen readers, Carrie, and Jen didn't seem upset. I mean, didn't seem like everything that Karen Reed did that morning was for her and not to get help for John O'Keefe.
I need someone to come to 34 Fairview Road in Canton, Mass. There's a man passed out in the snow.
All right, you're in Canton? Hold on. Let's transfer the Canton, please.
I think he's dead. We need, you got to get here ASAP.
This is the real 911 call Hen McCain made on that fateful morning.
Where are the blankets? I don't see blankets, Terry.
911, what's emergency? Hey,
Yes, I need someone to come immediately to 34 Fairview Road, Canton, Mass.
What's going on?
There's a guy unresponsive in the snow.
In the snow at 34?
He passed out, yes. 34, the Albert resident, yes. I just pulled up and found him. 34 Fairview, Canton, Mass, yes.
911, that's not recorded. Where's your emergency?
Yes, I'm sorry. Can you come to 34 Fairview Road in Canton? Yes, there's a man unresponsive in the snow.
In the background, you can hear Karen Reed frantically trying to save John's life. Meanwhile, this big dope that's talking to the family, John O'Keefe's former friend.
Judy. I can hang up this video now. Appreciate it. Guy got me wrong. Hey, if you want to compare me to Roberta Glass True Crime Report, I'm happy with that. Very happy with it, Frank. But now I can go to bed. It is such a polarizing case, and I really don't. I mean, it just isn't. I don't have a dog in that fight. I felt like they overcharged her to begin with, and, it's really hard to overcome that. They didn't have anything. So I have absolutely no idea if she took a cruise through Panama Canal, but I hope so. I love her voice. I love her voice. I wish I sounded like her, and I like my voice. Yeah, dog in the fight. Patty, I hope you don't get sued for talking about Wendi and her sex life. You know the beauty of lawsuits like that? Discovery. You too, Liza Ann. The last thing Wendi wants to do is sue a YouTuber right now. If anything, John Laurel would call one of us and go blah, 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 blah. So thanks to new member Anne Marie Moyer. I really appreciate it. And Zen Jen, very cool of you. So I wanted to end with comments of the night. So last night I just happened to say Debbie Martin's comment of the night where she was talking about Wendi called Donna sitting in the questioning room with that lousy victim advocate. And informing Donna not to call Charlie and let him know before, and not to tell anyone else, is what she said. So there's a couple here that would be fabulous. Fabulous comments of the night. Here's Debbie Gibbies. You can run, but you can't hide. Jill Estrada, whore, piece of shit. Sorry. It's a good one. It's a good one, Debbie. Debbie, don't forget her Spanish alias, Wendelina Juliana Estrada de la Rosa de Guadalupe Telemundo Lopez. Another Hey Mona's comment. Dear Charlie, how is prison? How is your toe? How is your toe? Are you making friends? Love, Mom. And again, Hey Mona, they should make Wendi wind socks. It's really hard to pick. So I wanted to highlight those for you tonight. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you for watching. Take care. Have a good night.